Hi friends, thanks for joining me for my paper pumpkin alternative video for February 2017. I'm not going to show you the unboxing part today, but I will leave a link to Stampin' Up's video that shows you all the kit's content and how you put it together. Okay, so my first card today, I decided to do a tag. It's not really a card. I used the 2-inch circle punch and corner rounder, and I'm just making a mask here to show me where to punch. I used my scoring tool and just scored a little one straight line kind of underneath the circle, rounded off the other edges, and that's pretty much the tag. There was these little tags inside that it was sort of like for a birthday party, so I just cut that one in half, and that's kind of how I determined what size I was gonna do. And I stamped happy in the Flirty Flamingo, and then I stamped birthday in, oh, what color was that? I think it's Island Indigo that I'm using. And you can see up in the top left corner there's a little thing that says stamps. That's how I keep my photopolymer stamps when I'm working with them. I just sort of peel them off and stick them to this. It's like a frame I got at the dollar store. Really handy, and you don't lose those little itty bitty pieces. Okay, so then I just put some dimensionals on the back of this sentiment piece, and it says happy birthday, and what you're supposed to do is stick it on a bottle. Like that, and that's from a local winery here. I live in the Okanagan in British Columbia, Canada, and we have a ton of wineries, and I usually give wine as a gift, so you can see where I got that idea from. It wasn't a hard push where you live where I live. Okay, so my second card today, I am just burnishing out the score line that was in the paper, and then I just trimmed it down to make a piece slightly smaller than the card base, and I took this silver ribbon. This is the 3/8 glitter ribbon that you can get for free for Celebration, and it's still on right now. And you can see how easily I tied a bow with that. It's lovely. It's soft. I thought it would be like itchy or something, like scratchy, but it's actually quite soft and very pliable. It's a really nice ribbon. So I'm using the glue dots here that came in the kit to adhere that bow down, but I have applied a fast fuse to the Fun Foam first. Fun Foam is just something that I have handy. I really like the full dimension that it gives me, and yeah, you probably use a little bit more adhesive with using the Fun Foam, but at least I know it's not going to get crushed. It's light, but it's really sturdy. So that's what I did there. Okay, so and here are my little glue dots that I mentioned that come in the kit, and I just sort of peeled them off, made sure that the ribbon was stuck down nice, and then added another couple to the top so that the ribbon all looks fancy. And I used the happy birthday sentiment in the Island Indigo. And it's funny, as I was looking at this paper, I didn't really actually see much Island Indigo, to be honest. I see like Pacific Point or Denim or Pool Party, but I guess they're going for a contrasting color. So anyway, that's what it says on the packaging, that Island Indigo was the complementary color. So that's what I'm doing. This could be, if you omitted the bow, this could be a very masculine card. And I know we all have struggled when it comes to masculine cards. And then everyone jokes because I abused my wink of Stella, but I love it. And it does add just that little extra. I can't really see it in the video, but you can certainly see it in real life, and it is quite sparkly. And that is card number 2. So card number 3 came out of, well, necessity, I guess. Easter's coming up. And when I looked at these papers that were in the kit, I thought instantly like wackadoo Easter eggs. So I have a piece of Stick It here. Stick It is very thin adhesive. You usually use it when you're die cutting something, and this is how you use it. You peel off one side, you stick it to the paper that you want adhesive on, and then you peel up that piece, and you can stick, usually you can stick that right to, you know, if it was a die cut or something, you can stick it right to your project. But right now I'm using vellum. So we sell vellum in the Stampin' Up store, and you can find it also at stationery stores or your local craft store as well. And I did 2 pieces like this, and I used my my oval framelits, and I just placed them around the 2 smallest layering oval framelits I used. So I cut out a ton of the light blue and the pink, and made a whole bunch of Easter eggs. So here I am with Fast Fuse, and then I have just sort of placed the egg shapes around, and I'm trying to sort of get you know, a variety of color here so that they're not all pink and they're not all blue. And I did end up having to pull a second stamp set to stamp the sentiment, and I'll show you that in a minute. But I'm just, yeah, basically trying to get a variety. And then this, I had so many eggs left over that I thought, well, I'm not just gonna, I try not to waste my papers, my adhesives. I try not to waste much. So I decided to make two cards. And I ended up having to add card bases to all the projects today, aside from the tag. And I always think it's important to have some white card bases around your stash. So this is the stamp set that I'm using. It's called Circle of Spring, and it also has a Happy Mother's Day sentiment as well. So I stamped off on the first card, and the second card I just stamped on a spare piece of Whisper White, and then I just wanted to pick up some of that yellow. I was kind of missing some of the Easter colors, and there's only a little bit of that yellow there. And once I found the orientation that I was going to use for card number 2, I decided to go ahead and put dimensionals on that strip and place it down right like that. I ended up also using the in color enamel shapes to just jazz these cards up a little bit. Oh, and for this particular card, so Easter card number 1, I did use a little bit of Flirty Flamingo cardstock. And I always have trouble lining it up. You know, I don't know if it's my cutting that's wrong, or if I'm just, you know, the glue is too sticky and it sticks to it. I don't know. And perhaps I wasn't necessarily happy with the border either. I really like those very slight borders, like 1/8 or 1/16 of an inch, just a couple centimeters from that card base or card front. So anyway, I trimmed it off, as you can see, and then I have adhered it to the front of my card, and you will see that the other card I just end up putting it on a white card base. So here's those enamel shapes that I was talking about. This is the in color one, so you get plenty, you get a ton of stars, you get a ton of shapes. They will not steer you wrong. Okay, so this is my second or Easter card number 2, and like I said, it was just straight Whisper White thick cardstock, where I was also stamping on the Whisper White thin. There is a difference just in the weight. They both stamp and accept ink perfectly well. Okay, so this is my Kendall card. I struggled with this kit trying to find some alternatives, but I'm pleased at the cards that I did end up making. So I just took a little spare piece of one of the papers that I had left over, and I couldn't make anything. Hats off to anybody that made an alternative with the sparkly gold. The gold was just too garish for me. It was definitely flame colored, so to me it couldn't be used easily, and I tried and failed miserably 3 times trying to make an alternative using those the gold flames. Anyway, so I added to this card some foam strips, and I doubled up on them. So a foam strip, I think, is like the height of 2 dimensionals. So this candle is getting like 4 dimensionals height, if you know what I'm saying. So it's quite dimensionalized. And the foam strips did fantastic for this. I was able to curve it around a pen, as you saw. And then just with my Island Indigo, I went in and stamped Celebrate. Also, could be easily a masculine card. I have a piece here of the light blue candle, and I had a hard time cutting it with the bumpy end, so I am just like slicing off bits and pieces, all different lengths, or sorry, all different widths, because I wanted to do that weaving. So I've flipped all my little pieces around, and I'm just basically finding some, you know, thick and thin pieces that I like, that sort of aren't clashing. I don't know, there's some bigger pieces and some thinner pieces. This is the first time I've ever weaved a card. So yeah, I just sort of went with what was pleasing, and I'm sure that there's a million different ways to do this, but this is the way I did it. So I kind of held the bottom and weaved pieces in through the top. And I was actually quite fortunate. There were some of the pieces near the top in the middle that ended up having some adhesive already on it. So it was easy to sort of plunk it down to my card base when I was ready to get going with the whole putting it together kind of process. But you can see here, just not really, some of the pieces, I'm not like perfectly weaving it. In other words, like some pieces are hanging out. And this is what I was talking about, that top piece. I was just really fortunate that it was had some adhesion or some adhesive to it already. So I ended up sort of sticking down some of the pieces that were underneath it and just using my grid mat for, you know, initial straightness. And yeah, that was how it sort of came together. Then as I'm placing some of the little bits, the paper bits, sort of weaving them in and out, replacing them, tucking them up under, I do end up going back and finding some, using my glue dots. And this second piece here had a bit of adhesive on it too, so it did give me stability in the middle. And I'm sure that there's 1,000,005 different ways to do it. Like I said, I was just sort of going with it. I've sort of seen this before and never tried it. And it's one of those things, these papers were pretty busy, weren't they? It's kind of hard to come up with ideas that, you know, deal with busy paper. So this is my interpretation of it. Okay, so now I have my glue dots and I've just sort of put them into strategic places so that I can really get everything sort of squared, and I don't want it, I do want it to look somewhat whimsical and haphazard, but at the same time, I for one like straight things, or at least have, you know, a bit of straightness in the design. As I'm coming along trimming, some pieces are shorter, some are the same length as the card, and that's kind of all I did. I lifted up some and I trimmed some straight to the card, and there were some pieces that were super loose that I needed to go back in and glue down, but you know, was all a process. This card took me the longest out of all of them. So, and here's that little invitation thing. So I turned it around, and then I used the happy birthday to you sentiment, and I put a piece of Flirty Flamingo, a little bit of leftover Flirty Flamingo that I had from the previous card, and put that in there as well. But you'll see in the picture coming up that I actually changed the sentiment because I thought it was too pink, and I wanted to bring in some of that blue. So I ended up restamping the sentiment exactly how this was. I just put it right on top, actually, so it's double thickness. And then, of course, busy backgrounds. I always, my fallback on this is adding a little bit of vellum. So I had a little bit of vellum left over from the other cards that I had made. The examples I'm going to share with you now have been created with the All Things Thanks stamp set. I love the font on this set. You can see how it's the perfect complement to a busy background paper. So the measurements from these cards I'm actually going to share on a Facebook Live event, and we're going to tackle a one sheet wonder project together. So find me on Facebook and stay tuned for March for a fun event. So thanks so much for joining me today. See you in the next video. Bye. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. On screen are 2 more videos for inspiration. Click on the maple leaf to visit my website, or click on me to subscribe to my channel. Thanks again for watching.